Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into some quite challenging ideas about, well, us, humans.
We're drawing from Naval Ravikant's 44 Harsh Truths About Human Nature. There was that great YouTube chat he had with Chris Williamson about them.
Exactly. And our mission really is to pull out the key stuff. What are the big insights here on happiness, success, human behavior, and, personal growth?
Yeah, and it's important to remember where these come from, right? There is personal notes, almost like thoughts in progress.
Right, exactly. Not like a finished doctrine. They're evolving, sometimes contradictory even, which makes them interesting.
Totally. That rawness is actually what's compelling. It's a window into someone really grappling with these big questions, not just serving up easy answers.
Okay, so let's jump in. Happiness and success, two big ones. Naval starts with those classic images, Socrates.
Oh yeah, Socrates in the market, amazed at how little he needed.
And then Diogenes telling Alexander the Great to get out of his sunbeam.
Huh, yeah. Talk about different ways to find happiness, right? Contentment versus just complete renunciation, living in a barrel.
It really sets up the question, doesn't it? What actually works? Is it getting more or wanting less?
And Naval seems to be exploring that himself. He doesn't really land on one being definitively better. It's like they're different paths.
So how does that mesh with success? The common wisdom is that happy people are maybe less driven, less hungry.
Right, that whole contentment kills ambition idea. But Naval flips that based on his own experience.
Yeah, he says finding more inner peace actually fueled him to go after, bigger things, purer goals, he calls them.
Which totally challenges that stereotype,
Yeah.
the miserable genius or the tormented artist trope.
It suggests maybe that peace provides a foundation for ambition, not against it. A more sustainable kind, maybe?
Exactly. A drive that comes from a better place, perhaps.
He even sort of jokes that his first path was chasing material stuff because, well, dropping everything just seemed unrealistic.
Too painful, yeah. And that feels pretty relatable, doesn't it? It often seems easier to just get the things we want than to, train ourselves not to want them.
Definitely. The steps seem clearer, maybe.
Then he hits us with that line. The reason to win the game is to be free of it.
Ooh, yeah. Play the game, wealth, status, whatever it is for you. But the real prize is getting to a point where you don't need the external validation anymore.
It's like achieving mastery lets you transcend the system, in a way. Your motivation becomes internal.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Suffering. He brings up the marshmallow test.
Right, classic delayed gratification. Endure a little pain now for a bigger reward later. Short-term suffering for long-term gain.
But, and this is key, he warns against getting, addicted to suffering itself.
That's a really crucial distinction. Thinking that pain equals progress, rather than focusing on the actual outcome of the effort.
And he clarifies, for most of us, suffering isn't physical pain, it's mental anguish. Often, it's just not wanting to do the thing we know we need to do.
Yeah, that internal resistance. And that leads to this point about regret, right?
Yeah.
Successful people looking back and wishing they'd, enjoy the process more.
Exactly. Not savored the journey, which really hammers home how much our mindset shapes the experience.
Totally. It's about how we frame the hard stuff.
He suggests this exercise.
Yeah.
Think about yourself 5, 10, 15 years ago. What would you tell that person?
And his own answer is basically less anger, less drama, less internal suffering. So much of it was just unnecessary noise.
Wow. That makes you think, doesn't it? How much energy do we waste on internal battles that, in the grand scheme, don't really matter?
A lot, probably. He talks about miserable successes.
Right. Getting the goal but feeling totally depleted because the process was just agonizing.
And the reality is the journey is the constant. That's where we live most of our lives.
So if the journey sucks...
then even getting there might feel hollow, which connects to that cycle he describes. Desire, then suffering to get it, then fulfillment, and then...
boredom. Yeah. The hedonic treadmill kicks in.
Exactly. Happiness spikes, but then it tends to drift back to your set point.
He makes the point that money solves money problems, which is huge, obviously. But it's not a guaranteed ticket to lasting happiness.
Right. He mentions those studies. Lottery winners, people recovering from accidents, they often end up back where they started, happiness-wise.
But he does add a nuance. Money you earn can feel different.
Yeah, there's a sense of pride, accomplishment tied to the effort and skill involved that seems to stick more.
So the takeaway seems to be find ways to enjoy the process, because that's 99% of it.
And one way to do that is to be more intentional about your desires. Choose fewer things to want.
Because unnecessary desires are just manufactured unhappiness, right?
Pretty much. Focus Selectivity, that's key for success and for a better journey.
Okay, let's talk fame and authenticity. He questions fame just for fame's sake, hollow fame.
hmm But he distinguishes that from fame you earn by actually creating something valuable or useful. That kind, he thinks, is okay, maybe even good.
So it's about the source of the recognition. Are people applauding you or applauding something useful you did?
Exactly. What's the underlying driver?
He also brings up the danger of, like, making big public pronouncements. You become a hostage to your past self.
Yeah, and online, changing your mind can get you labeled a hypocrite instantly.
But his point is, learning is error correction. It's natural to update your views. The real issue, the grifter, is someone who's saying things they don't genuinely believe.
That's the core difference, isn't it? Being wrong versus being fake. One is learning, the other erodes trust.
And there's that pressure to live up to the public persona, even in private. He quotes Emerson.
A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. Yeah. Life is course correction. You have to be willing to evolve.
He really hammers the danger of lying in public, how it just eats away at your authenticity and how people's BS detectors are getting pretty sharp.
Oh, hypersensitive these days, yeah. We can often sense when someone's being disingenuous, even if we can't pinpoint exactly why.
Lying to climb the status ladder, he says, creates this weird hall of mirrors. You end up fooling yourself too.
And then you're just trying to impress people who, honestly, probably don't care about the real you anyway.
Right. What actually matters, he suggests, is getting respect from the few people you genuinely respect.
That feels much more grounding, doesn't it? Focus on real connection and your own integrity, not mass approval.
Okay. Status games versus wealth creation. This is a big theme for him. He talks about how easy it is to get sucked into playing status games.
And how they differ fundamentally from creating actual wealth. Think back to hunter-gatherer times. Status was pretty much all there was. No real stored wealth.
But now, creating wealth, making something people want, offering a service that can be positive sum, everyone can potentially benefit.
Whereas status is often zero-sum, or feels like it. For you to move up the ranking, someone else often has to move down. It's inherently competitive.
Like YouTube likes or Forbes lists or whatever leaderboard you're looking at.
Exactly. And that constant comparison can be exhausting, never feeling like you've quite made it.
He makes a great point about trajectory versus position. It's not just where you are, but whether you feel like you're rising or falling.
Yeah, even if you're ranked highly, if you feel like you're decelerating, that can feel worse psychologically than being lower down but on the way up.
Because we're wired for loss aversion, right? Our brains hate going backwards.
Deeply wired. So we cling to status, even if it's not making us happy or serving our real goals.
All right, let's shift to self-esteem. Naval argues the absolute worst outcome is not having it.
Yeah, that internal struggle just makes everything harder. Facing the world feels impossible sometimes.
He frames self-esteem as your reputation with yourself. Do your actions line up with your own moral code?
Mm-hmm. When you act in ways you genuinely believe are right, even when it's hard, that builds that internal respect.
And one way to build it, he suggests, is through service and sacrifice for people you care about.
But he distinguishes true sacrifice, choosing something you want more over something you want less, from just, like, masochism.
Right. It's about prioritizing higher values. That act reinforces your integrity.
It does. And yeah, integrity and self-reflection can feel costly sometimes. But virtues like honesty actually benefit everyone. They build trust.
He uses the stag hunt analogy. If we all cooperate and trust each other, we can achieve bigger things than if everyone just goes for the easy individual win.
Exactly. High-trust societies just work better. And signaling that you're trustworthy attracts other trustworthy people. It's a long game.
He also mentions self-doubt, sharing that his own confidence partly comes from feeling unconditionally loved as a kid.
That's huge, isn't it? That foundational sense of security really shapes how you see yourself and your capabilities.
And this idea of the demon, our subconscious, knowing more than we can say.
Our intuition, yeah, that gut feeling drawing on tons of unseen data.
And if you didn't get that unconditional love, he talks about the internal golden rule. Basically, treat yourself the way you wish you'd been treated. Give yourself that respect.
Mm-hmm. And he adds that interesting point about feeling love versus being loved. Giving love is more expansive.
Okay, pride. He calls it the most expensive trait. Why?
Because it stops you from learning. It makes you blind to mistakes, prevents course correction. You get stuck.
Like holding on to losing stocks or staying in a bad relationship or job just because you can't admit you were wrong.
Exactly. You get trapped in what he calls local maxima. A decent spot, but not the best you could reach, because pride won't let you risk starting over.
He points to great creators, people like Elon Musk, who seem willing to just blow things up and start again, take massive risks.
That 0 to 1 creation is incredibly hard and requires humility. You have to be willing to fail and look foolish. Pride gets in the way of that.
So moving toward happiness, he says it's a choice. He really pushes back against glorifying suffering.
Yeah, like we shouldn't just accept a low quality of life or think misery is noble. It's possible to be smart and happy.
And it starts with deciding, choosing to reframe things, choosing happiness.
And crucially, he argues happiness doesn't kill ambition. It actually aligns it. Sacrificing happiness for success is backwards.
Right. Happiness leads to better, more aligned action, which then often leads to success. It's not an either-or.
Which leads into his idea of holistic selfishness.
Yeah, unapologetically putting yourself first, which sounds maybe harsh, but it's challenging that constant need to please everyone else.
It's not about being mean. It's about recognizing that your own well-being, your own energy, is the foundation for everything else.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
So it means really guarding your time, prioritizing your own needs and desires. He even suggests ditching rigid schedules.
Don't keep a schedule. Yeah, embrace spontaneity. Act on inspiration when it strikes.
It's liberating, isn't it, that idea of not having to wait or schedule creativity?
Totally. And it counters that false dichotomy. You don't have to choose between being productive and successful or being happy and free. They can coexist.
He says lessening desire can lead to more natural action, though he does balance that. Sometimes you do need obsessive focus.
It's about finding what feels like play to you, but looks like work to others. That's where you escape competition through authenticity. Productize yourself.
And recognizing there are infinite opportunities now. Treat life like a search first, before you commit and exploit an opportunity.
And don't commit too early. That's a huge mistake. Be quick to kill things that aren't working. Default to no.
So there's an exploration phase, lots of yes, and then an exploitation phase, lots of no.
Right. You have to protect your focus once you find something that clicks, which means dealing with requests. His rule.
If you wouldn't ask someone else to do it, don't feel obligated yourself. Protect your flow state.
And try not to let those requests generate negative emotion. Just dismiss them cleanly. Tap back into your own drive. Saying no isn't a crime.
Then there's observing the mind. Meditation helps create that gap, right, between the observer and the thoughts.
Yeah, so you can look at your thoughts more objectively instead of just being swept away by them.
And realizing how many problems are actually created in the mind first.
So you can be choosier about which problems you actually engage with. Don't get stuck in mind mud wrestling.
It all connects back. Managing mental energy helps happiness, focus, and success.
Definitely. Okay, what about external negativity? He talks about getting addicted to problem solving.
Yeah, even creating problems or taking on ones you have zero control over.
Cultivating indifference to things outside your control becomes really important. Avoiding doom surfing.
Oh, yeah. Modern media is like a fire hose of things to worry about that you can't influence. Mimetic viruses, he calls them.
Obsessions with distant issues while maybe your own life needs attention.
That line, your family is broken, but you're going to fix the world.
Ouch.
No. But it makes the point.
Back to holistic selfishness. Tend your own garden first. That's how you gain the strength to potentially help elsewhere.
So what's the real measure of intelligence, according to Naval?
Getting what you want out of life. Simple, but deep.
And it has two parts. Knowing how to get it.
And wanting the right things in the first place. Avoiding those booby prizes, desires that just cause more trouble.
It's easy to just drift, isn't it? Following societal scripts or what others want for you. Mimetic desire.
Thinking for yourself versus just being on autopilot. He points out how long we commit to things based on very short decision moments.
And how discovery is path-dependent. And mastery comes from iteration, real practice and adjustment, not just mindless repetition.
So, constantly questioning, is this my desire? Is this path still right for me?
Okay, optimism versus pessimism. He advises, don't partner with cynics and pessimists.
And address your own internal cynicism, too. Recognize its evolutionary roots. Pessimism kept us safe from ruin.
But modern life is different. Safer, generally, with more potential for huge upsides.
Yeah.
Non-linear opportunities.
So his approach is general optimism, specific skepticism. Be open to big possibilities, but analyze the details critically, like the barbell strategy.
Explore widely, find something promising, then go all in. And avoid labels. Don't define yourself as just an optimist or pessimist. Aim for objectivity.
Right, and don't define yourself by past trauma either. Adaptation is intelligence, survival.
Let's talk about surprise and the ego. He thinks too much control kills the capacity for surprise. Life needs that flow.
And he points to the ego. Thinking about yourself constantly is a huge source of unhappiness. Worrying about your personality, dwelling on grievances.
We're just strengthening the beast, the ego, by obsessing over it.
Better to focus on actually solving your problems than getting lost in ego narratives. Detachment isn't the goal. It's often a side effect of focusing outward.
On things bigger than you, a mission, spirituality, kids, whatever it is. Getting out of your own head.
Because overthinking, rumination, that self-obsession is directly correlated with misery.
He's also skeptical of, happiness techniques, says focusing on them implies you lack happiness.
And everyone's path is unique anyway. What works for one person won't necessarily work for another.
He believes truly driven people are just consumed by their desire and focus. They're doing it, not studying how to do it.
Yes, some strong takes there. You don't need mentors, you need action. If you don't lie awake thinking about it, you don't want it badly enough.
Those unclosed loops keeping you up at night? Change comes from real desire and understanding, not force, aligning action with want.
What about anxiety? He calls it the emotion du jour.
Yeah, and he links stress to conflicting desires. The solution: acknowledge the conflict, then choose. Make a decision.
Anxiety is like that stress left unresolved, festering, the mind just eating itself.
But he reminds us, you are more than your mind. Consciousness is deeper. Mind and body are transient. Find stability in just being.
And remember, interpretation matters. Choose positive or neutral framing for experiences.
He circles back to valuing attention. Observing your mind reveals the loops. Letting go is constant work.
And fulfillment comes from pursuing your desires, not expectations. Holistic selfishness again.
Okay, intuition versus rationality. The gut. He sees it as refined judgment, the real decision maker.
The head just rationalizes it afterwards often. Mind is good for new external problems.
But not for the big, hard, internal decisions. His advice: sleep on it. Wait for the gut answer to feel clear and strong.
You develop that gut feel through experience, but watch out for wishful thinking, desire clouding judgment.
This one's powerful. Changing others versus changing yourself.
We think we can't change ourselves, but we can. We think we can change other people, but we can't.
Yeah, you can change your reaction to others, but they change on their own time, through their own insight or trauma. Trying to force it just pushes them away.
Positive reinforcement is better. Compliment the behavior you want to see more of. Like that Reddit question about loving potential versus reality.
Ooh, yeah. You have to deal with the person who's actually there.
He touches briefly on love. Sees it as that fundamental craving for unity, connection, transcending the superficial.
And then, decisiveness. Life is short. Stop messing around.
If you can't decide between options, the answer is probably no to all of them for now.
Have the courage to commit, but also to cut losses. Relationships, jobs, cities. Don't settle for mediocrity in the big things.
Default to no. Choose short-term pain for long-term peace. Aim high. Focus on those big three. Who, what, where.
Iterate on them, but don't run out the clock. Especially in key relationships, don't settle for unhappy. Values alignment over checklists.
It takes courage, though. Overcoming that fear of change, loss aversion, starting over is hard.
But successful people are often willing to do it. Key is not taking yourself too seriously. Fame can be a trap there.
Yeah. Getting self-important. Remember your core self. Don't fall for the illusion that you're special or know better. Seriousness kills freedom, spontaneity, joy.
Then he has these unteachable truths, the stuff everyone knows but nobody follows.
Yeah. Like, they seem obvious, but we all think we're the exception. Until experience hits us. The I told you so moment from life itself.
Why are they unteachable? Maybe too broad. Need personal context. Sometimes they even contradict each other.
You have to figure it out for yourself, carve your own path based on these general ideas. Rote memorization isn't wisdom.
Right. Sounding smart versus being smart. True understanding lets you discuss things from the ground up, not just repeat jargon.
That intellectual curiosity, figuring things out deeply, is its own reward.
He touches on spending wealth, too, not just making it. Learn how to spend it well.
Points to Musk reinvesting in big projects. Good uses. Investment, buying time, treating people well, taking risks on things only you can build. Bad uses, mindless consumption.
Retirement might be pointless if you love your work. Wealth buys freedom to pursue your vision. But how to get rich advice is tricky without specifics.
Context is everything there.
He values deep understanding over sound bites. Shifted from tweets to longer talks. AI is great at memorizing, But humans excel at understanding judgment, taste. That's becoming more valuable.
Philosophy emerges from mastery, finding the universal and the specific, and truths needed recontextualizing for new times. Science pushes philosophy's boundaries.
He admits his own beliefs have updated, less purely laissez-faire socially, sees the value of culture, even religion, in creating trust and cooperation.
They solve coordination problems, but breaking them down quickly without a replacement is dangerous. He's also loosened up on parenting ideas. Kids will be kids.
And recognizing principles might apply differently locally versus globally. Anarchist personally, maybe conservative societally.
On parenting, help kids solve their own problems, preserve agency, raise resilient wolves, quick to learn, hard to kill.
He briefly mentions a culture war. It's ongoing, always shifting. Meritocracy versus power is an old tension.
And navigating today's info overload. Challenge is not caring about everything, especially distant crises you can't affect. Brains aren't built for it.
Focus locally, focus actionably. Desire is a contract to be unhappy until it's met, so choose desires wisely. Don't obsess over the uncontrollable.
Getting past a tough past. Process it to get rid of it, not to dwell. Cut the Gordian knot. Life's too short to keep unraveling the past instead of acting now.
And the true currency. Not time, not money.
Attention. Where are you consciously choosing to place it?
He even sees an advantage in starting as a loser. Builds drive, character, but don't inflict hardship on kids. Cultivate gratitude instead.
And finally, reward positive actions. Society often focuses on criticism. Reinforce the good, building hospitals, whatever. Don't just punish mistakes.
So, quite a journey through these, huh? A
Yeah.
real deep dive into some, well, often uncomfortable truths about being human via Naval Ravikant.
Yeah, we covered a lot. Happiness, success, self-awareness, society, growth. It's all intertwined.
Hopefully listening to this has sparked some thoughts for you, maybe some aha moments. That's the goal, right? Useful insights without wasting your time.
Now it's really over to you, the listener. Which of these harsh truths really landed? How might they apply in your own life?
Definitely worth mulling over, because ultimately this journey of understanding ourselves and the world, it never really ends, does
Not
it?
at all. But that self-awareness we build along the way, that's probably the most powerful tool we've got.